Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Focus on You with Phil and Oscar. Me being Phil and the guy in the corner there being Oscar. Hey, Oscar, good to see you again.
You putting me in the corner again? I'm usually in the
waiting. You in the corner. Ding, ding, ding. Here we go. Oh, man, we are looking forward to this program today because we are introducing our friend, Julie, and she's an author of the book. Tell us the name of your book again, Julie.
Sure, it's Peace, Possibilities, and Perspective. 8 Secrets to Serenity and Satisfaction in Your Life.
Peace, Possibilities, and Perspective.
Yes.
And I was listening to your book just before we got on today. I love the audio version of it. I'm an audio person by any means, so I definitely appreciate that you decided to do that and put it on audio. Definitely what we appreciate, and I thank Oscar for introducing me to you as well. It's been a great experience. So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
So born and raised, it's Julie Bruns. I'm born and raised in Chicago, the suburbs of Chicago. I now live in the city. I've been in learning and development for over 20 years. This is the first book I've ever written. I didn't grow up thinking I'm going to be a writer and I'm going to write a book. I grew up thinking I want to help people. I love learning and I love training, and I've been in it for a long time. And I was always along the way trying to figure out how to be happy and peaceful and content, no matter what I was experiencing in my corporate world and in my family. I just knew that there wasn't going to be a place I would get to and everything would just be perfect. I needed to figure out how to be that way inside all the time, no matter what was going on around me with my job, with my family, with my love life, whatever it was. So I was always on a quest for that, which is why I eventually wrote this book. Yeah.
Wow. So life really led you to writing this book.
Yes. I was doing these workshops in one of my past roles, and I just had an idea one day. I write about it in my book about I was feeling very, very disconnected at work. This is years ago, early, I would say mid, like 2017, 2018, but I was in a virtual team, and I worked with people all over the world, literally. And we'd get on the phone and we'd have our meeting and we'd get off the phone. I'm like, I just talked to 7 different people in 7 different countries, and we don't know anything about each other. This is crazy. So I said, I'm feeling disconnected. I'm sure there's other people that are feeling the same way. And I just pitched this idea at a conference one day, and the guy I pitched it to was senior enough that said, like, go ahead and do it if you want to do it. And I started these workshops, and I just would pick a topic that I thought everyone could relate to. So young, old, man, woman, didn't matter, about to retire, just out of college, it didn't matter. And I said, all over the world, people can relate to gratitude. People can relate to joy. People can relate to connecting. So I just picked topics that I thought would resonate with people, and they did. And all these people were hundreds of people were coming to these workshops. And my sister one day said to me, you could write about all this. Like, you could write about these topics. This could be a book. And that was like the light bulb moment. It was a couple years in, and I was like, oh, I could. So that was just like the tiny little seed that was planted. I'm like, well, maybe I will one day. And one day it finally came.
So how did you start? Did you start journaling first and then translate that into a book, or just sat down one day and like, I'm going to do the entire book?
Yeah, no, I loved the topics that I loved possibility. It's why it's part of my book, the title. I just love, I thought of topics that I would resonate with everyone. And I said, do I have stories around these topics? And can I do some more research around these topics? So I said, these are the topics that are speaking to me. I picked the number 8 because 8 is just it's a special number in our family. Both our boys were born on the 8th of the month. I'm like, I love that number 8. I'm going to do 8 topics. And when I would sit down to write, I would say, this is what I want to write about gratitude today. And do I have a story about that? I also was implementing the practices as I was writing about them. So I'm going to do gratitude every day myself, and then I'm going to write about my experience. I'm going to infuse more joy in my everyday work environment, and I'm going to write about that. So when I sat down to write every day, I committed to doing it 2 hours a day in the morning without turning on email or anything. And I just told myself for 2 hours, I'm going to write with no other distractions. And then when I'm done, I'm done. I'm not going to stress about it and do it all day long and just grind about it. So, but I would open up my Word documents and I'm going to write a story about gratitude. If nothing came to me, to answer your question, Oscar, when I have light bulb moments or ideas, I would put them in my phone. So when I went to sit down, I'd say, okay, I have some notes on my phone. I have some notes in Microsoft OneNote, and I would bring them in and I'm like, what do I want to write about today? Nothing would come to me about gratitude. I'm like, you know what it is? Resilience. I'm going to tell that story about not getting that job I wanted. And then I would sit down and write. In 2 hours, maybe I would write 2 pages, maybe I would write 5. Or I would switch to another chapter, but at least for 2 hours a day, I would do it. And a lot got done that way.
So it wasn't a sequential book. You just started writing ideas down. Those ideas led to more ideas. Like, so this will be chapter 1. This will be chapter 2. Right. Oh, this is going to be chapter 5 because there's something missing in between.
Yeah, no, it's not sequential. The beauty of my book is you can read it in any order and it will make sense to you. I reference things. I'll say like back in my mindfulness chapter, you could just go back to the mindfulness chapter, but it's not sequential. But it's funny because you can decide the order you want to put it in, but then when you send it to an editor, they're like, here's what we recommend. So even when you think you know what you want to do, someone else will say, this works better. My publisher said, make your first chapter, your best one, the first one, and your second best one, the last one, or something like that. So that's what I did. And then in between, the order made sense to me this way. And actually, my editor recommended another order, the girl that initially edited it. And I'm like, you know what, I like it better this way. But the beauty of it is it really doesn't matter. With a lot of self-help books, depending if you don't have a model and you don't have a step-by-step thing, it doesn't really matter what order you write them in. That's what I found.
But each chapter has a takeaway. And I want to give you my takeaway. Chapter 5, when you talk about flowers, I now bring flowers home every week.
Is that the joy chapter? I don't even know. Like chapter 5 is joy. Okay.
Chapter 5, joy. And like I used to bring flowers when I screwed up and did something wrong. Like, here, honey, here's some flowers. Right. So I figured this might be like a preemptive thing. If I bring flowers every week, then I get a pass. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it does make a difference just putting those beautiful colored flowers in the on the table in the middle of the living room. Where you're like, oh, it does make a difference. You
smile when you see them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't cost, you can get them for $5, you can get them for $50 at the florist, but you go to the grocery store, you can spend $5. And why are you waiting to do that for Valentine's Day or birthday or Christmas? Mm-hmm. It's like every day should be celebrated that way. And you're worth spending the $5 to smile every day and look at that. It's such a simple thing, but people think I have to wait for a special occasion. And that's what I'm trying to get away from.
And the bonus is my cat thinks it's a buffet and he will eat, around the edges. So.
The great thing is to never really associate a good thing with a bad thing. Like like you said, Oscar, a lot of times sometimes when guys buy flowers, it's I have to make up for something that I did. Mm-hmm. And so it's something as beautiful as flowers become associated with something negative that you did. Versus just giving it out of a love, like, I just really appreciate you today, so I got you flowers. Or I was thinking about you, so you're associating it with something good, so that when they see flowers, when people see the flowers, it brings up good memories and not bad memories, right?
The chances of you being hit with the bouquet is lowered also.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
Bill, I love that analogy. You're right. Because if you're only giving them when you're sorry for something, every time you look at that beautiful thing, you're thinking it's to make up for something that was bad. I never thought of it that way before. I would also say to the women out there, I buy them for myself. My husband would buy them for me every day if he knows that they bring me joy, but it brings me actually more joy to buy them for myself.
Wow.
right? So, because
Yeah.
otherwise, so here's the other thing too, and whatever you want to think about this, you buy them for Valentine's Day, they're double the price. You buy them for what, sweetest day, they're double the price or whatever. It would stress me out knowing that those were $50 or $100 sitting on my thing and they're going to last 5 days. I'd rather buy the
Right.
flower I want and have it sit there for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It brings me more joy that way. It's not because I don't think I'm worth it. It's because, gosh, I'd rather go buy a cute outfit for that instead of having my husband spend 50 or double the. And it's also makes me mad that they inflate everything on those holidays to take advantage
Right.
of people that are trying to make up for something. I'm like, you know what? I'll just do it for myself. I'm not taking anything away from him. I know what I like and I buy them for when I want them. And there's no shame in that.
I wanted, as Oscar was sharing what he got from your book, the part that I connected with mostly was your experiences. Like you started the book off with your experience of getting pregnant and all your concerns that were kind of tied to that. And I can't imagine that nobody can relate to what you're talking about, because everybody has kind of faced that crossroads where, yeah, you're doing life, right? You have your master's degree, you just got your master's degree, and now you are focusing on one aspect of your life when just another thing just kind of like comes into play, and we have to adjust, we have to pivot. And what kind of
2020
attitude
word, pivot.
Pivot, yeah. Pivot's been a very famous word lately.
Yeah, I'm liking the adjust. I like some of the other words better.
Yeah. Adjust, yeah.
We're changing it, Phil. We're changing it to adjust from now.
Yes.
Yes, we'll adjust, but I like how your book points to just how you mentally have to change in order to be productive in your life. I mean, talk about that just a little bit, about those experiences that you were able to plant into your book.
Yeah, so you're talking about the introduction where I'm telling people that this is what happened to me when I was, not happened to me. I mean, I was married, I was finishing my master's degree, I just worked 2 jobs, went to school full time, paid for everything myself. My husband and I just paid for our own wedding. We both came from modest families,
Mm-hmm.
and we did everything the way we wanted to do it. And I was like, all right, I've been going to school, I've been working, waitressing and bartending, and I'm going to go get that great job now. Check, check, check. And all my friends were probably like 3 years ahead of me because their parents paid for school, they paid for their weddings. I'm trying to catch up. Again, these are all our choices, though. And so when we got married, I was like, all right, we're going to get married, and then we're going to be able to be off on the weekends and have regular jobs. My husband was just starting a new job, full-time regular job. And I got pregnant, and I was like, we weren't planning for it. We were actually planning the opposite of it. We were doing what we needed to do not to have it happen. So it happens anyways. But just like life, it was supposed to happen the way it happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And my husband's like, well, first of all, we are married.
I'm glad he's like, we are married,
Yeah, eventually we were going to maybe have it. Well, were we like, I wanted this career first for a little bit. And we were young, we were 26 years old. So I was like, we have time. But it happened the way it happened. I was like, what are we going to do? And my husband, we'll figure it out. We always figured it out. We're hard workers. We weren't afraid of that. I was just like, how am I going to do that well and do this well? I've been planning for this my whole life. I haven't been planning for that my whole life. How am I going to do both of them well? And I was like, I need to figure this out. So, and I didn't have, I had a wonderful father that would give me great advice. But I came from a family of 11 children. So it wasn't, there was never a lot of time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There was never a lot of time for advice and guidance. And if you asked, he gave it to you. My mom was more she was in the mode of like operations, like we need to make sure we have enough food. I have to go to the grocery store. Does everyone have what they need for school? Goodbye. So there wasn't any of this guidance. And so I had to be my own guidance, which is why I wrote the book, really. And I was reading up on things and figuring out how I'm going to do this and what's going to be the best thing as a mom and how can I do both of them well. And newsflash, you really can't do both of them well at the same time. I also knew, I'm like, I want to be the best mom I can be. I don't have the best role model, but I'm going to figure this out. So, and I loved reading, and I still love reading and learning. Like, I'm going to start reading about this. I'm going to talk to people who are good at it. I'm going to be the best person I can be and ask questions, and I'll figure it out. And I did. And like my husband said, we can work for the rest of our lives. We're only going to be raising kids for a short period of our marriage.
Yeah.
Let's do this well. And we both wanted to have a different experience than we had growing up. So we just obviously made it a priority, and we're like, we'll figure this out. We worked opposite jobs, shifts and stuff, so we could be home. And yeah.
You touched on something that, learning. And one of the chapters you're talking about lifelong learning, which is something you don't realize until you finish school, that there's so many other things to learn. And, and it's up to you to go and find the sources and learn and educate yourself. And one of the things we keep talking about on the show is I found Robert Kiyosaki after, I lost my job. It's like, what did I do wrong? What didn't I learn in school? What should I have learned to create wealth, to, create security? So that lifelong learning, if we can instill that in kids, like, listen, you're going to be going to school, and then the learning starts after that.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You think you're just going to you'll get your degree, and then you're like, all right, I'm good to go. I know what I need to know, and I'll just go out into my job and I'll just crush it. And you may, but then you're going to be very quickly soon realize, oh, I was never taught how to manage people. I was never taught how to have a good performance review. I was never taught how to build my career and develop my skills after. I wasn't taught those things. So how am I going to figure out how to do it? I love what you just said though, Oscar, about what did I do wrong? So I think it's normal to do that. And I do myself. I think it's just like the go-to thing in your brain. Like, okay, I got laid off. What did I do wrong? You almost never did anything wrong unless you got flat out fired because you lied or stole or something like that. It's almost never you did something wrong. It's we had other goals and you didn't fit in there. I think the better question to ask is, what did I really do right in this job, and what did I love about it, and what do I want to not do the next time I have a job?
Well, let me clarify. Not that I wasn't fired; the place went bankrupt.
Oh yeah.
So what did I do wrong? As in the thing of what didn't I have set up in case this happened? What was my plan?
Security.
Right. There was no. I was like, I got a job, I'm going to work, going to get retired, blah blah blah. And then again, what's the word we're using, Phil?
Adjust. Yes. Just for Julie, we're going to use the word
adjust.
Yeah.
It's like, what didn't I learn along the way to prepare myself to be self-sufficient, to be, to have everything set up just in case. That's the part, I'm trying to teach people. What's your plan B? What's your just in case, your plans, there's a 180 in your plans.
Yeah. And if it's not your company, it's probably not your plan. So it's like, what can you do about the other stuff? Yeah. Yeah. You can prepare in other ways so that if something does happen, but it's also like, you don't want to keep one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake, because then there's always like this, well, when it doesn't go right, and then you're expecting it not to go right. And then you draw some of those experiences to you. You're like, well, here it is. I expect it not to go right. So there's a fine line of like preparing, but not preparing to fail.
Right. I mean, because nobody prepares us for failure, right? Or how to manage failure. I think that that's a part of life that we learn on the go. And a lot of times it's really, depending on what it is, you respond based on your preparedness. Like, for instance, if you've been sideswiped with somebody cheating in a relationship, right, and you didn't see it coming, it becomes this, okay, so why didn't I see it coming? Or it just becomes this whole internal, external response to, that specific situation. And a lot of questions usually come up from that. But I wanted to ask you this because, I know that there was an inspiration for the book, and there's a purpose why you wrote it, that you want the readers to kind of like get some information from that. So I want you to just share right now, just what inspired you to do that, and then what you want their readers to get from that.
Yeah. So I was inspired to write it because I wanted to show people that no matter where they were in life, whether they were 24, 44, or 64, whether they were in a relationship or not, whether they had the job they wanted or not, whether they had money or not, they can be grateful and joyful and peaceful and content every single day if they choose to be. So the book is really showing you every day how to do that, how to do it practically with no money and barely any time, because it's about mindset and just a few little daily practices like gratitude. But it was really just like, nothing's ever going to be perfect all the time. And when we get somewhere where we want to go and we wind up there at the end of our journey at the rainbow or whatever it is, it's never going to be like, all right, here we are, and I will never want anything else. Here we are, and I will never have another bad day. That's just not life. And P.S., if it was that way all the time and there was no contrast at all, you'd never appreciate all the great things anyways. So there has to be the light and the dark, the good and the bad, all of that. But along the way, when things aren't going bad, when things are going bad or not the way you want them to go, these things in this book will show you how to navigate that better. And like you said, Phil, how you can, the perspective, be prepared, whatever. It's like, you're going to be so much more centered, grounded, and prepared, and just more like kind of chill about it, because you're doing all these other things every day. So when things come at you, you're sideswiped, like you said, in a relationship or a job, you know, goes out of business or company. It's not this end all be all. Like I write about this in Resilience in my book. It's not this, oh my God, I got laid off and I'm just going to like cry about it for 3 months. If you're practicing this stuff every day, it's not going to be this big deal. You'll for one day, you'll be like, that sucks. And then you'll talk to the right person and you'll, you know what? It doesn't really suck that much. I have all these skills. I have all this education. I have all this experience. I know all these people. I'm going to find something even better.
Right.
Right. And you get to that faster.
That's exactly what happened to me when I got the phone call that, you know, the place was closed. I literally said, all right, this week's going to suck, but next week I'm going on vacation. So I'm going to take it. But I have one phrase that I always use, which is, so what, now what? Like,
oh, I love that.
So what? All right, now what? What's, you know, we're not living in this situation. So what? You know, I got a flat tire. So what? Now what? Now I got to change the tire and move on. You know, so it's
I love that.
And that, you know, that's, and you're being grateful for what you have. And again, the gratitude journal is fantastic. And I've started doing that. Actually, be like, what are my 3 things I'm grateful for when I wake up? One is waking up, which is like you know, half the battle. And then 2 other things. And before going to bed, it's like, what did I accomplish today that I'm grateful for that I hadn't accomplished before? And it does build you up, saying, I'm pretty good at this thing called life so far.
My husband didn't read my book until he edited the audio version for me. So he kind of liked being surprised about it, but he was listening to me tell the stories in my book. And he knows that I was doing this gratitude thing for a while, and he started doing it. And he's like, and he's verbalizing it to me. He's doing it to himself, and then he's verbalizing it to me too now. So it's been a nice little unexpected gift. I mean, he's always very appreciative and of me and treats me beautifully and everything anyways. But on top of it, you know, being grateful for men, I think is it's not harder. I just think we're not, I just don't think they're taught the way women are. Or, it seems like a fluffy idea or whatever. And it's been kind of cute to see him talk about it a little bit. Like, I'm really grateful for this. I'm like, and we've been teaching our kids that too. I have been a lot, but it's just nice to hear you, Oscar, say that, and to hear my husband say that, you know, like what he's grateful for out loud. And it just, you just get a little thing of a ping of a sweet little feeling too when you do it. Right? You know, it's like
someone heard me.
No, but you know what though? What I find too is that people feel, there's some people that take your attitude of gratitude and they think that you're being too optimistic, right? If you're not like focused on everything that's negative and everything that's wrong going on around you, then you're not being realistic. So I've heard the realist be like, yeah, I'm just being real. This was real. But my personal experience, and you can voice on this too, Julie, is that you really live what you're focused on.
For sure.
Your attitude towards anything determines how you feel in that moment, you know, and what you discover about that moment. You know, like for instance, I'll give an example. When I wasn't working, like Oscar would say, for a moment I was like, okay, I'm just gonna binge watch a few movies, right?
Mhm.
As soon as I was done binge watching, I was like, okay, what am I gonna do now, right? And my focus didn't go on, oh my God, the earth is gonna open up, I'm gonna be eaten, and life is going to definitely not be good, right? I started thinking creatively, because when you start thinking positive, I found that my mind becomes more creative, and it starts thinking about all the productive things I could
Of
be
course.
doing. And then you start living in it. You start becoming a
Course.
part of that. But what do you think about that?
So yeah, so you said it, like what you focus on expands is one of the ways to say it. What you
Mhm.
appreciate appreciates.
Right.
So all of the concept is the same. Like if it's just like when you think about you want to buy a new car, for example, and you want a red convertible, whatever it is, and then all of a sudden you start seeing these red convertible, whatever it is, everywhere. That's not a
Mhm.
coincidence.
Right.
You're drawing them to you. You turn down the one street to the right instead of the left that day or whatever. You keep seeing them because you started to focus on them, right?
Right.
So there's
Uh-huh.
there's all kinds of research and science around this, but what you focus on expands, and also if you so that's great. So you sat on the couch and watched a couple of you binged on Netflix for a couple of days, and then you got the next day and said, all right, today's crappy, and tomorrow, what am I going to do next?
Right.
If you sat in that feeling of I'm not this sucks, I'm just going to binge watch and feel low and depressed or whatever, you're not going to be able, like you said, to have those positive ideas and that creativity and that light bulb moment or that
Mm.
phone call that you weren't expecting or whatever. That stuff doesn't come when you're sitting on the couch feeling sorry for yourself, because the mind you cannot, I think it's Einstein that said it, you cannot
Mm.
solve the problem with the same mind that created it. So if you're
Right.
feeling crappy
Wow.
and depressed,
Wow.
right,
Yeah.
you can't solve
Yeah.
your problem
Great.
with the same mind that created it. You have to
Mm.
change your mind. You can't
Yeah.
change the people around you. You have to change your mind.
Mm.
And that's the only thing you have control over. So it's like, all right, that person didn't want me, that job didn't want me, I got laid off, the company closed or whatever. That's not about me. That's about that company, that whatever else there is. What else can I do next? Like, and then if you don't get to shift to that next little, so what, now what? You're never going to find the solution. And those other things that you want aren't going to come to you because you're not focusing on them. Focusing on the problem does not solve it.
Right.
There are a couple of guys that come to mind: Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton. I believe Joe Dispenza says, and he's going into the quantum field,
Yep.
where focus goes, energy
Energy
flows.
flows.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh, my life sucks. Like the universe said, oh, okay, here you go.
Yep.
Yep. Here's proof.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Oscar. Go ahead.
Bruce Lipton's biology of belief, which is whatever you believe turns into a corresponding chemical in your body. So if you feel bad, your immune system goes down. You don't, regenerate.
Right.
You're in survival mode. So all of this comes together. Being grateful will help you live longer just because it will change your body chemistry. So you're able
Yes.
to adapt to things. So
I love both of those authors. I have Joe Dispenza's book right here, and that book I read last summer. It's called Breaking the
Becoming
Habit of Being
Supernatural.
Yourself.
And
Breaking
Becoming Supernatural is another great book.
a good one. Bruce Lipton too. I read a couple of his books, but Joe Dispenza, I write about it in my book. He actually did a physical experiment at his gratitude workshop a couple of years ago, maybe, and you can read about it online. He actually took the blood of the people at the workshop at the beginning of the workshop, and 3 days later he took it again, and their body, and in between, the only thing he changed for all those people was he had them say 3 things they were grateful for. They did some gratitude practice a couple times throughout the day, not like all day long every day, just a couple of times each day over the workshop for 3 days. I think the end of the 3 days, he tested their blood, and a chemical in their blood increased by like 50%. That literally changed the body chemistry in their blood.
Yep.
Which supports the biology of belief that Bruce Lipton wrote about. So it's all connected. And again, this is stuff you don't learn in school.
No.
This is learning about life when you're, after school. And what you were saying about failure, again, we go back to the school system where failure is not an option. You cannot fail. You have to have A's. You can't, if you're a C student, you're awful. You learn not to fail. Where in real life and in business, you need to fail often, and as we say, fail forward. Like, okay, a failure is just, this didn't work in this way.
Mm-hmm.
So what did I learn from that? Let's move it over there. So, everything we ever had, cell phones, light bulbs, everything is 1,000 failures that didn't work until they did. Formula 409 is named Formula 409 because 408 formulas did not work.
Crazy.
WD-40.
That's crazy.
40, the 39th didn't work, the 40th worked. So these are names of things that we've had 408 failures for this cleaner, and we've had 39 failures for the water displacement spray. So yeah, learn to fail and fail forward.
Was it J.K. Rowling was, she was denied publishing her book. I think it was like 67, 70, something like that times.
Yeah.
Publishers said no to her, and then finally she gets it, and look at her now. I mean, it's so, yes, failure is all about, and yes, that didn't work. Now what? So what? Now what?
Now what?
I love that, Oscar. It's beautiful.
Is that your new book?
There you go. Your book.
That's his book, exactly.
You just said your book. Should people be thinking about writing books, to have their experience go out? What, if you said to me, yeah, that's your book. All right. How do you coach people to say, hey, I didn't grow up thinking I'm going to write a book. Like, how do you express that to people?
What's your advice to them?
Yeah.
Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
I knew what you were getting at. I would say, if there's something you're dying to say, then you have a book in you. I have a good friend that's been through a few hard times, nothing too bad. But she's like, I really want to write a book. I'm like, she's like, I'm not a writer. I'm like, you don't have to be a writer to write a book. You have to have a story, and you have to have something you want to share. And she doesn't consider herself a good writer. I don't know if she is or isn't. She's never written anything. I said, but you don't have to write. You literally can hold up your iPhone and talk into it. That talking for 30 minutes can be transcribed, which is, I started transcribing. I was talking into Zoom calls and stuff like that. I started having a college student transcribe what I was saying, so I could start with a framework instead of just rewriting everything down that I've already said a million times, it doesn't have to be sitting down, like you were saying at the beginning of the call, Oscar, with a blank page, like, what am I going to do? That's really overwhelming and intimidating. I know I have something to say. How do I even start? With an outline. Start with a few notes in your iPhone. Start with speaking into something and sending it to someone for $100 and having them transcribe a chapter of it and see how you feel about it afterwards. But if you really have something to say, this is how I knew I was going to finish it. I knew that if something happened to me, so a couple of years ago, my sister-in-law, my brother's wife, died of lung cancer. She was 52. She found out in December and she died in May. And when this was happening, I was already had this thing, like, I want to finish my book. I was also turning 50 that year. I'm like, I want to write it. I've been thinking about this for a couple of years. I'm turning 50. I need to finish it. I don't want to be 70 and be like, I didn't write that book. Now I don't have the energy to write it. I want to do it now. And then when she was diagnosed, I'm like, what? No one is guaranteed anything. She didn't know when she turned 51 that within a year she would die. She didn't know that. No one knew that. No one can know. But I thought, I don't want to be that person. I don't want something bad to happen to me for me to have perspective, which is why it's called Peace, Possibilities, and Perspective. I don't want to have the bad things on me for me to go like, okay, now I'm going to make a change. I want those bad things that happen to other people to have meaning. And I'm not thinking of the word right now, but like for nothing. Like, so that happened. No one could change anything that happened. I want to honor that. Say like, I'm going to do something that I've always wanted to do because I know that life is short, and I see that life is short because I was just proving it. And I'm going to do something about it instead of just talking about it and wasting time. Because if she had a year to get back, what are the millions of things she would have done differently, right? I have a year. I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to do this. Come hell or high water, I'm going to write this book and finish it. And I don't care what it takes. So, but you have to have that passion, and you have to have that. It's not just ambition. It's just like, this is important no matter what. If I died tomorrow, what is one thing I wanted to make sure I did? There's a couple of things. I wanted to be a great parent and really be a great parent and friend and wife and mother. But this book was like, it's out there forever. And I just wanted it to be done and out there forever. So if there's something that you want to be out there forever and you think you can help one person, so the publisher asked me, Julie, why are you writing a book? It was already done. I just needed to get it published. And I said, he's like, are you doing it for money? I'm like, no, I don't care if I make any money on it. I'm doing it because if I can help one person feel a little bit better than I felt when I was 25 or 45, it will be worth it. And he's like, well, that's the right answer. And he's like, and because that's your answer, you probably will make a little bit of money on it. But people come to him all the time and say, I want to be a millionaire. And he's like, well, that's not the right reason for writing a book. You want to help someone.
Yeah.
And help one person. It was worth 1 year of my life.
You know, it's so funny. Because that's exactly why I ventured into this, is because it's just, I saw where people wanted to live their dream, but it was always like, well, I don't have the money to do this, or I don't have, I have nobody that helps me, or I don't know what to do next. And after kind of like hearing all these different reasons for not pursuing, I said to myself, there's got to be a way to give access to people the information they need to be their better selves. And it's programs like this, it's interviews like this that I feel that helps people to discover those new aspects of themselves, because you get a lot of negative growing up. We grow up under a lot of negatives. And sometimes it's hard for people to sift through all that noise to discover who they really are. And one of the things I like to say or use is that that God makes everything like a seed, right? All the gifts, everything is already inside of it. And the pressures of life and everything in life is meant to bring it out. It's really not meant to kill you. It's actually meant to make you better. A diamond goes through tons of pressure before it gets better. A seed goes through a ton of pressure before it grows into a tree. Everything that transforms from its original state goes through tons and tons of pressure before it gets to its beautiful state that everybody gets to enjoy. And I say to myself, how are we any different? It's our perspective, it's your perspective of yourself. How you think about your life and yourself and your purpose, it either enriches you to grow into it, or you die thinking about it in a negative way. Well, I'm not good for anything. Anything without a purpose is dying. Anything without a purpose is going to eventually have no purpose. So you have to really shed yourself and go, I love making flowers. Maybe that's your contribution to the world. Maybe that's the thing that you're here for. Do it, enjoy it, and love it, love doing it. And that's what I hear even just with your story and your message, and I love that you're giving that out.
You're talking about seeds, flowers. I put all this thing together. There's a Buddhist saying that the most beautiful lotus flower is not made of lotus. It's made from the mud and everything underneath that gave it nutrition. So you're like, I'm a seed, but I'm not going to have all this beautiful stuff making me, into a tree. I need mud and rain and storms and all the other stuff. Otherwise, the seed's just going to sit there doing nothing if you don't get that from the outside.
Right.
Nowhere. So yeah, you're who you are depends on what you've been able to overcome and learn from and grow from and get stronger from. Because if you don't have any friction, that piece of coal without pressure and time is still coal. But pressure and time.
I love so this Oprah said this a long time ago, and other people have said it in different ways. It's like, what am I meant to learn from this? when something doesn't go well, or how you thought it was going to go, what am I meant to learn about this? Because the sooner you can ask that question, the sooner you're going to get the lesson, and then you can do the now what. So this didn't work out for me. Why didn't it work out for me? So it's kind of funny. When I started my own business, it's like a year ago or whatever, year and a half ago. And I was like, three things. I wanted to deliver these workshops on all these topics in my book. I wanted to write a book, and I wanted to have a podcast. And the book and the podcast were kind of like, the book was like, I'm going to do this on the side and in between all my workshops. And the podcast was literally one idea I had on the train ride home. Literally, I was reading a book. There was a really cool story about this guy. I'm like, I'm going to call this guy and I'm going to interview him and I'm going to find out how he figured out. He opened a winery. And I'm like, he went from this one other job to opening a winery. I'm like, how did you figure that out? I'm going to email him and I'm going to see if he wants to come on my podcast. And he's going to be my first guest. That's literally what I did on the train. It was like in seconds. I came home, I sent an email, I think, on the train. I'm like, just now what? I have an idea. What am I going to do about it? I sent an email. Yeah. It took 3 or 4 things to get through to him. And his name is John. And I said, John, would you like to come on my thing? I'm starting a podcast about people that love what they do and how they do it. Would you want to come on? He's like, yes. And he was my first guest. And that was almost 100 episodes ago. But my point is, I had three ideas for this business. And the 2 that were kind of on the side, the podcast and the book, happened very easily with almost very little effort. Wow. I'm not saying writing a book is easy. I'm saying like I was just doing on the side and through everything else because I had this drive to do it, to finish it. And the podcast was just like, I was just excited about it. The workshops, I'm trying so hard and nothing's happening with them. And so I had an epiphany a couple of months ago this year. And I said, you know what, to myself. And then I told my husband, I said, I think that that's not happening the way I want it to happen because it's not going to be enough for me. I don't want to just talk like I'm talking with you guys is awesome. Then we leave and then you get on with your day and you do something else with your business or your this, right? And then it's over. I have no idea if anyone I talked to today or anyone that heard me knows if I don't know if it resonated. I don't know if they learned anything. Like ask for the stuff you're sharing with me. I love hearing it. But if you're not constantly going back and forth with people every day, you don't know. You just get it out there. It's too isolating for me. So I need to get back on a team. I need to work at a corporation that I can see the people I'm developing and see the impact and get the feedback and then see the project go out and then say, that was awesome. We're doing it again. Or you know what? We need to tweak this. Great. Let's do it again in a different way. Like that's all that constant, that journey and that constant adjusting is very appealing and that it's challenging to me, but I can't get any energy if I don't ever talk to anyone.
That's true. That's true.
So I'm like, that's why that didn't work. This other stuff, the book and the podcast, that was perfect. Great. Now it's out there and I can talk about it like I am with you guys and I can help people and I can get it in more people's hands. But at the end of the day, I want to be around collaborating with other people and creating and, you know, innovating and all of that. And that's what I needed. And that's why that thing didn't happen the way I wanted it to happen. So back to your point, Oscar. So that didn't happen the way I wanted to. What does it mean? What can I learn from that? Oh, I know what it means now. I need something else. So I'm going to go get that something else.
You're a performer. Like there are actors that say, I can't do television because I don't get feedback from the audience. I need to be on a show. I need to be on stage and see what's going on. I used to do children's magic and the feedback from the kids was what brought the show along. If I got kids that I wasn't getting feedback for, that the show just was awful. But the more engaged people are, now you play off of it and it goes in whatever direction it needs to go from what you're getting.
Right.
Because you're like, all right, I'm going to talk about this, but nobody cares. But you start talking about this and they bring you that way and you're like, okay, let's follow this to its end. And then
I love that
somewhere else. So
some people are intimidated by that, but I'm not. I love that challenge. And like you said, you feed off and you're like, oh, you just made me think of something I didn't think of before. Oh, you know what? Great point. You're right. What I just said was not accurate. That's more accurate. Let's talk about that. I love that back and forth. Some people,
I love it.
I can't prepare for it, so I don't want to do it. And it's like, well, it's too buttoned up for me. I can't do that.
Well, that's why we do focus on you. It's like, how is this going to go? We don't know where it's going to go, what topics are going to hit until we start rolling.
Yeah, that's the fun part.
Yeah, that is the fun part, because here's the thing. Sometimes we think we know ourselves too much. I think we like really delve into, oh, this is who I am. This is what it is. But here's the thing. 2 years from now, the Julie we're talking to now is going to be a different Julie, because you're now in doing what you're doing. You've kind of matured and you've changed and your desires shift. And then you want to do something else. You're like, wow, okay, now I'm a more mature me. I'm a better, stronger version of myself. I want to do something different. Maybe I want to run for president,
Never.
or something, or whatever. But you know, you find that as you start drudging through, what you thought who you thought you were at one stage as you're going in. And I call it the parable of the talents, right? You know, the guy that invested and worked hard and used his talents got more. The guy that buried his talent, it got taken from him and given to the guy that was doing more, right? So the parable of the talent is just talking about being useful and knowing what your contribution is and doing what you need to do to make it work. And that's what I feel like you're doing. Your workshop may not even be a now thing. It might be your future thing, where it's like as soon as you get to that point, you just see opportunities coming around you for workshops, and you're like, why am I getting opportunities for workshops now?
Yeah.
That's happened to me before. I mean, in moments when I'm not even thinking about it, like things that what I call like dead desires, right? Desires I wasn't even working, projects that are still on the board, wasn't even thinking about it, wasn't even working on it. And I'm just going through life doing what I love to do. And one day I get rewarded with, hey, why do you want to do this?
Yeah.
Sure.
That's the best. That's
right.
the best.
It just draws it right to you as like a bonus. Like, here's your bonus. Remember you wanted this years ago? Here's your bonus.
I see the parallel between what you and Julie just said. You said the guy that buried his talents got it taken away from him. And Julie said, don't die with your talents and have it buried.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't literally bury it with your talents.
And also I want to say, like, this is something, lots of people have said this before in different ways. Marie Forleo is someone I followed for years, but she has a book called Everything is Figure Outable. And she talks about really how you can figure out and get out of almost any problem if you have the right mindset. It's a very simple way of summarizing her book. But she says, and other people have written this, like you would never have the desire to do the thing that's really calling you, like this book. It's like really calling me to do that podcast. I was like, I have to do this. You wouldn't have it in your heart if you didn't have everything you already needed to do it. So a lot of people will say, like, I don't have the technology for a podcast. I didn't say any of that to myself. I didn't say, I don't have the technology. I don't know how to do this. Zoom wasn't really even a thing when this happened. It was like WebEx and GoToMeeting and Skype, whatever. All of these things. I didn't say how. I didn't say the how. I just said, I want to do this so bad that I'll figure out everything I need to do. And I did figure out everything I needed to do by myself. I didn't pay anyone to help me do anything. My point is, if the desire is so strong that you have to make it happen, you'll figure out all of the hows later. But you would never have it there if you weren't meant to do it.
Yeah.
It's that strong. You are meant to do it.
Yeah.
That's like one of the biggest takeaways from today. If it's that strong, you are 100% meant to do it. You will figure out a way. Don't let anyone tell you any different. If I had told everyone what I was going to do with that podcast, do you think that anyone would have said, yeah, go do it tomorrow, Julie? No, I literally told no one except my husband, and I just started doing it.
Yep.
You start telling people, and everyone, people are negative, not necessarily because they want to hold you down. Some people do, but most people just want to, like you said at the beginning, Phil, keep you realistic. Like, are you sure? And do you have it? And what about the money? And what about this? I mean, I didn't really have any extra money to do this. It didn't cost that much extra. A podcast platform is like $25 a month. You get a website, $25 a month. It's really not that expensive. So anyone that says like, well, what about all these other things? You know what? Just start going to figure it out. It's really not as hard as you think if you really want to do it. That's
awesome. That's awesome. I usually, when I'm talking about stuff like this, I always say that what is purpose for you, God is not going to show it to anybody else, because it's your assignment. It's something for you to do. So he's not going to go Johnny down the street, hey, you see what this one's supposed to do? Johnny's like, no, I don't even see what I'm supposed to do. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do in my life, but yet I'm going to try to tell you and you what you need to do about your life. But Johnny is totally lost on his own life, right? But when you have something in, like, I love what you said, when you have something innate in you that you wake up in the morning and you're thinking about it, you're a baker, you love the smell of baking pies and, muffins and things like that. You dream about it. You dream about, you cooking and all of that. If that's your passion, then That's your contribution to the world. And you're going to come up with stuff. You don't know what that pursuit is going to create in you,
Right.
and is going to create something new. You might add another ingredient to something that we do every day that just changes how we enjoy
Yes.
coffee or how we enjoy hot chocolate, and it changes the world as to how we taste things. So my thing is just pursue what you're passionate about, and I think that's the message in your book too, Julie, is have peace with yourself, have the enjoy the peace in your life, and explore possibilities and change your perspective. Don't be afraid to change your
Yes,
perspective.
don't be afraid to change. You can be happy along the way. Keep pursuing things and know that, like, a lot of people will say, well, so-and-so, you don't think there's other podcasts out there that kind of do what I do? I have no idea. That's the other thing. Don't start looking at what everyone else is doing. Just do the thing you want to do.
Mhm.
There's probably someone that wrote, I mean, the stuff I talk about here is not new. Gratitude, joy, mindfulness. There's lots of books on that stuff, but no one has Julie Bruns' perspective in life to write about those things. So you want to do a podcast? No one has your perspective. There's not another human being on the planet that has every experience and every, chemical and every attitude that you have. There, it just isn't. So no one will ever do the exact same thing you're going to do. So don't tell yourself, if someone says that's already being done. No, it's not. It's not being done by me. That means it's not being done.
And I love that the
Absolutely.
possibilities come from gratitude. For now, you're grateful. Now the possibilities open up. If you're, contemplating your belly button all day long, the possibilities are not coming to you because
Right.
there's lint in my belly button. That's my biggest problem. I don't have time to get a new suit.
Yeah.
So and what Phil was saying before, your passion, I think, comes from the word inspiration, and inspiration comes from the word in spirit. So your spirit says, do this. And again,
Yes.
Julie, don't tell anybody else because they have no clue. So this is what you were meant to do. This is what you need to pursue. And Julie's book is the steps to how to get to that point. Be grateful, have the possibilities show up, and the rest is gravy.
Be open.
So
I just want to say, yeah, go ahead.
No, so Julie, what's your final message to our viewers today, just based on your book?
Yeah. So, well, one thing I want to say is that your purpose, it can be intimidating. I was talking to someone on my podcast about this, Susan Russo, how it could be overwhelming and intimidating to say, like, what's my big purpose in life? So you're 22 years old, or you're 42 and you just got laid off. You're like, what am I going to do now? Mm-hmm. Don't think about it like this overwhelming, oh my God, I have to plan it all now. Just like a college student out of college. What if I don't pick the right career? What's your purpose now? You don't have to be like, what's my purpose in the entire universe? Just what's my purpose now? My purpose now is to find the perfect job for me now at 25 for the next 5 years. My purpose now is to start my podcast and see where it goes. My purpose now is to connect with my family when I get home from dinner tonight. My purpose now is to go enjoy my vacation. Like, what is it now? It doesn't have to be this big, overwhelming thing that you don't think you can conquer. But I think the final thing I want to say is, like, these secrets in the book are like, they're tips, but they're not, it's nothing that's going to be like, wow, I never heard that before. These are all things that any human being can do. It doesn't matter whether you have money, no money, live in a great place, have a crappy family. It doesn't matter. When you start you're the creator of your own life. This is probably what I want to say. You create everything you desire. You are the creator of every experience you have. It's not like I can walk into a room and everyone around me is going to be negative, so now I'm doomed and I'm negative. That's not the case. You can control yourself. You can leave the room. You can stay in the room. You can talk to this person. If they're negative, you can turn around and adjust and talk to this person instead. You have complete control over what you're experiencing. And it's not meant to be negative. It's meant to be positive. So when you're feeling that negativity, say, like, what's the next thing I can do to make me feel a little bit better? And you'll get to where you want to go quicker, instead of just thinking about what's not going well for you. Start thinking about what is going well and what's going right, and focus on those things, and your life will start shifting. It's never going to shift in the negative, ever.
Wow.
Except the more negative.
Yeah, you'll get more negative.
Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. That's King James, but just basically whatever you put out there is definitely what's going to come back to you. It's I think it's a basic principle that's been through every culture you can even imagine,
Yeah.
So, Julie, we really appreciate you coming on today. Thank you so much for being a part of our program. We definitely want to have you again. You don't mind come and hang out with us, do you?
Oh my God, I love the conversation. I could do this all day, every day. I literally could just talk about these kinds of things every day.
Wow.
So
So
I
could
would
we.
love it.
We love this stuff. We'd probably have Ransom come on with her too,
I was
right?
just going to say, have Ransom on and have her husband on. We talk about this because you guys
Oh,
really hit on
yeah. This would be a phenomenal. I think that's a great idea. I really think that'd be awesome. So I know Ransom is having surgery tomorrow. So Ransom, we're looking out for you, man, and definitely, so hoping that you get through that. So again, Julie, thank you for
Thanks, you
coming
guys.
on. We definitely want to have you again. Oscar, you're my brother from another mother. We'll see you guys again later. Take care,
It's a
everybody.
pleasure,
Take care.
everyone. Thank you.